There are two main ways in which a waterfall forms, and the first one I want to talk about is your traditional one, which you probably remember from GCSE, and it occurs when we have an area of hard rock overlying an area of soft rock below. As the river flows down, it will erode away the soft rock at a far greater rate, and you must remember those key terms which you can see here: hydraulic action and corrosion. Do not say erosion, or else you will not access all the marks. As the river erodes that soft rock further and further back, we end up with a huge amount of overhang here on the hard rock. Eventually this is going to collapse and we end up with our material here. That generates a plunge pool, and corrosion occurs by these rocks then making that plunge pool deeper and deeper and deeper. And the whole waterfall ends up retreating, and so the term is waterfall retreat, and as it retreats further back up, you may end up with a gorge being formed. That's a nice straightforward way of accessing yourself, perhaps 4 marks out of 7. Now the next slide will show you, or the next diagram will show you how to access the last 3 marks. The next way that waterfalls are formed are due to isostatic and eustatic changes. Isostatic changes are changes in the land, and eustatic are changes in the water, the water level. A river is always striving to reach its base level. Now, when a river first starts near its source, it has very high levels of gravitational potential energy, and so it uses that gravitational potential energy to cut down through the rock. As it gets nearer and nearer the river's mouth, it loses its gravitational potential energy, or it reduces the amount that it has. Now, what can happen is if you suddenly have a change in land level, a rise in land level, such as an isostatic change, or a drop in sea level, such as a eustatic change, we're suddenly increasing that distance between the source and the mouth, and therefore a river gets increased gravitational potential energy for increased downcutting. And we can see here in the diagram that this was perhaps the original sea level, dotted along here. Now if suddenly sea level drops due to a eustatic change and makes its way to this level here, then that river will suddenly, from this point here, will have got an increased gravitational potential energy. And so using that increased gravitational potential energy for vertical erosion, it creates what's known as a nick point. And that nick point here can end up turning into a waterfall. The diagram then goes on to show perhaps another drop in sea level, which again leads to further rejuvenation and further increasing gravitational potential energy, which is used for vertical erosion here, and you may end up with another waterfall here. So that is a couple of ways in which waterfalls are formed. Hopefully you're clear on both of them, and you'll need to talk about both of them to access the full mark.